Takai. Chapter 7. Over the following days, events seemed to play out in slow motion for Kyrall. Things went more or less back to normal as she continued her training and her studies. Dravok had made a full recovery, and if it weren't for the scars on his face, you'd think nothing happened. Donwi, on the other hand, seemed very preoccupied, spending many hours outside of the temple. She thought of confronting her master on where he went during those hours, but after what happened, she felt it best not to press the matter. During one particularly warm summer morning, Donwi was once again absent, as Master Elan oversaw her morning exercises alongside Dravok. The two Padawans were practicing combat drills and positions inside one of the temple training chambers.
Ease up, Kyrall. Relax your shoulders. Keep yourself centered. Balance is key to everything in life.
Kyrall nodded and took a deep breath as she ran through the positions.
Excellent. Take your positions for sparring.
Kyrall and Dravok bowed to each other and stood on opposite ends of the chamber as Elan ignited his lightsaber, standing between the students, the blade emitting a deep orange glow. With one swift movement, he brought the blade down towards the ground and back up before stepping back. Kyrall ignited her weapon, as did Dravok as the two circled each other. Dravok was the first to make a move, lunging forward with two quick cuts to either shoulder as Kyrall deflected the strikes and pushed his blades to the side before attempting to strike his waist. Dravok leapt back to gain distance as he pointed his blade towards her.
Concentrate, Kyrall. Mind your opponent's footwork.
Dravok kept a close eye on the movement of Kyrall's feet as he slowly closed the distance between them. Kyrall brought her blade upward towards Dravok's hands as the young man caught her blade in a bind, twisting the blade around and sending her weapon clattering to the floor as he pointed his blade to her chin.
Good effort, Princess. This one's mine.
Kyrall sneered and rolled her eyes as she picked up her saber. Master Elan stepped forward.
Is something on your mind, Kyrall? You seem distracted as of late.
I'm all right, Master. It's nothing.
Dravok raised an eyebrow.
Come on, what's eating at you?
Nothing. I said I'm all right.
Elan looked to Dravok.
Kyrall, practice your drills. Kyrall, come with me.
Dravok huffed and stepped back into the center of the chamber as Kyrall followed the Nalirog master to his chamber.
Have a seat.
Kyrall looked around the room at the extravagant decor and sat in a large chair as Master Elan held out a bowl of purple candies.
Have a gushu drop.
Kyrall took one of the candies and popped it into her mouth as Elan sat across from her.
This is about Donwi, isn't it?
Kyrall stayed silent.
You have to understand the situation, Kyrall.
I understand, Master. He told me about what happened to his last apprentice. I just thought he would trust me a bit more.
What makes you think he doesn't trust you?
He hasn't told me anything about where he's been going or keeping me up to date with anything regarding Bala Shud.
Weren't you told to not meddle in this business anymore, Kyrall? Bala Shud is not someone to be taken lightly. Your master learned that the hard way.
Is it meddling that I want him to be open with me? But I know I messed up. I don't need to be reminded of that. But why is it so difficult to just keep me up to date?
He's just trying to keep you safe, Kyrall. I've known Donwi since the day he was brought to the temple. He has a very particular way of dealing with these sorts of things.
What are you talking about?
Elan popped a gushu drop into his mouth and sipped his tea.
When Donwi was your age, he was very much like yourself, studious and headstrong. He had dreams of being a great Jedi, known far and wide for valiant deeds and heroics. But that ambition often led him into a habit of looking for trouble. And when that trouble became too much for him to handle, his preferred course of action was to deal with it by himself. When he took Sorvin as his apprentice, his life changed. He was no longer responsible for just his own life. He now had a student to foster. He grew very attached to the boy. After he died, Donwy changed. He vowed he would never take another Padawan until he met you.
He didn't want to take another student?
Donwy feared that a Padawan brought with it too much risk. After losing Sorvin, I don't think he wanted to risk facing that same pain again. Kukuri, you are the most important person in Donwy's life. He doesn't want to risk losing you the way he lost Sorvin. I understand you feel pushed to the side at the present, but I'll talk to him when he returns. In the meantime, you should head to the archives and study for your next lesson with Master Zakatic.
Kukuri nodded.
Thank you, Master Elan.
She stood and bowed to Master Elan and left his chamber, making her way to the archives. Meanwhile, Donwy was investigating the lower levels, scrounging for any information he could find. Accompanied by Coruscant security, Donwy examined the sewage plant where the failed Nexu transport had taken place a few days prior.
You're certain your men have searched the area thoroughly? Master Jedi, we've scoured this place top to bottom. If there was any evidence we found useful, it's already in our hands. I'm not sure what else you could be looking for down here. Donwy let out an exasperated sigh and continued looking around the crime scene. As he examined his surroundings, he stepped into a puddle of runoff from a leaking pipe. As he looked down, he noticed something in the reflection. An antenna, situated near the control room up above. Did your men scour the control room? It was outside the scene of the crime, didn't seem vital.
Donwy made his way up the metal stairs and over to the control room. Looking around, nothing seemed out of place. Nothing except for an empty ale bottle lying beside the desk. The officer stepped behind him, examining the scene.
This plant has been abandoned for how long? About 5 months.
Donwy looked at the bottle carefully.
This hasn't been here nearly that long. What's your point? Those crooks aren't the only trespassers we've caught down here, you know.
Donwy handed the bottle to the officer.
Run a DNA test. Run for prints. Anything you can find in your database. What for? Do it. Report back to me with the results.
The officer sighed and put the bottle into the evidence bag as Donwy continued his search. Back at the temple, Kukuri was studying in the archives. After a while, her mind began to wander from her research of galactic history and more towards the growling in her stomach. It was time for lunch. She made her way out of the archives into the cafeteria, where she filled her plate and sat down.
Need some company?
Kukuri looked up as Dravok sat across from her.
Sure. How was training?
It was alright. What did you talk to Master Elan about?
Nothing. Just stuff.
Dravok raised his eyebrow in skepticism.
Just stuff, huh? Any stuff in particular?
Kukuri frowned and put her fork down.
It's none of your business. I'm just dealing with some things, all right? Nothing I can't handle.
Is this about your master?
Just drop it, okay?
Dravok looked in surprise as Kukuri huffed and got up, leaving her food.
Hey, wait!
As Kukuri marched off down the temple halls, Dravok ran beside her.
Hey, look, I'm just trying to help.
Who asked you to help, Kyrall?
Well, no one, I just...
You just what?
What is your problem right now?
Nothing! I can deal with it myself, okay?
Kukuri and Dravok glared at each other before Kukuri slowly calmed down and sighed, sitting against the wall. Dravok huffed and thought of storming off to let her be. Instead, he slowly sat beside her.
I'm sorry.
Me too. Yes. It's about Master Donwy.
He's not still mad at you, is he?
Kukuri shook her head.
No, it's not that. He's hiding something.
About Balashud?
I don't know. Maybe. When I talked to Elan, he said that after losing his first Padawan, Master Donwy swore he wouldn't take another. So why is he training me then?
Maybe he changed his mind.
Obviously, but why? There has to be more to it.
Dravok put his hand on her shoulder.
You're probably overthinking it. Things are always changing in life. You don't always know how things are going to play out, you know?
Kukuri shrugged.
Maybe you're right. I'm just kind of stressed out, I guess.
When I get stressed out, I take a walk to clear my head.
I guess that might help. You want to come with? I could use a little company.
Dravok helped her up and smiled a bit as the two Padawans walked through the temple halls. Silently at first, but after a while, they started talking about little things. The weather, training routines, the new starship models introduced on the market. Before they knew it, they found themselves at the other side of the temple. It was then that Kukuri realized she'd completely forgotten about her lesson with Master Zakatic.
Shoot! I missed my lesson. Donwei is gonna kill me.
Dravok chuckled.
Relax, it's one lesson. You're a bookworm, I'm sure you'll make up for it.
Kukuri wanted to scold Dravok, but instead, she chuckled.
You know, you were actually right for once. I feel a lot better after that walk.
Dravok smirked.
See? I'm not as stupid as you thought I was.
Kukuri returned Dravok's smug expression.
Oh, you're definitely stupid, Kyrall. But a busted chronometer is right twice a day, I guess.
As Dravok and Kukuri laughed, her comlink beeped.
Hello?
Kukuri, I'm on my way back to the temple. I need to see you and Kyrall in the analysis room. It's urgent.
Okay, Master. We'll be there.
Kukuri put her comlink away and looked at Dravok.
Master Dunley wants to see us. Come on.
Lead the way, princess.
Dravok followed Kukuri to the analysis room, where they waited for Donwei. After a few minutes, he arrived and quickly entered information into the computer.
Master?
Donwei continued typing, not looking away from the screen.
Kukuri, do you remember how many men were smuggling those creatures into the lower levels?
Kukuri thought.
3. I think.
Dravok's gaze darted forward.
No, there were 4 of them. I remember hearing one of them somewhere down there, but I didn't see him.
Donwei quickly pulled up 4 images on the screen. 4 men.
Which of these men did you see?
Dravok and Kukuri pointed out the same 3 men who were taken out by the Nexu during the attack.
And you don't recognize the 4th?
No. Master, what's going on?
Zavar Brook. His DNA was found on a bottle at the scene. Kyrall, you said you heard his voice. Did you hear anything he said? Anything at all?
Dravok tried to remember what he said, but the details were too fuzzy.
No, I can't remember.
Donwei sighed.
Well, we're able to put him at the scene. He wasn't found at the scene, so he's most likely out there. I'm going to speak to Coruscant Security and see what we can find out about his whereabouts.
Kukuri looked at her master.
And then what?
If he's indeed working for Balashud, he could be the key to finding him.
Kukuri looked slightly hopeful.
And when we find him?
Not we, Kukuri. I don't want you getting involved in this.
Kukuri looked down and left the room. Dravok watched her leave as Donwei continued his work.
She just wants to help.
It's not up to her, Kyrall. She's not ready.
Dravok frowned and walked to the door.
She never will be if you never give her the chance.
Before Donwei could respond, Dravok was already running after Kukuri. Sighing, Donwei looked at the screen at a static image of Balashud. Dravok looked around for Kukuri and soon found her hunched over on the steps of the temple. Slowly, he sat beside her.
Kukuri?
Kukuri said nothing. She only stared out at the city skyline.
For what it's worth, and maybe that's not much, I think you're more capable than he gives you credit for.
Kukuri slowly looked at Dravok, whose gaze was fixed on the sky.
I know it's not easy, feeling excluded and all, but, well, I'm here if you need someone to talk to.
Kukuri felt her face turn slightly red.
Thanks, Kyrall.
Kyrall put his hand on her shoulder as they stared out at the city. Meanwhile, Donwei was pacing the floor of his chamber when the door opened.
Am I interrupting anything, Donwei?
Donwei sighed in frustration.
I'm back at square one, Elan. I have a name and a face, but no clue where to look.
Perhaps your focus is on the wrong person.
No, he's definitely working for Balashud. I know it. I
That's
just
not
need to...
who I was referring to, Donwei. Your frequent absences from the temple are starting to take a toll on your Padawan.
Kukuri knows the importance of this job, Elan.
She knows why it's important to you. But have you forgotten that you have responsibilities beyond chasing shadows from your past?
I don't need to be reminded, Elan. When I have a solid lead,
So you don't even know if this lead you have will amount to anything. Open your eyes, Donway. Ever since Balashud re-entered your life, you've become obsessed. You have a duty to your apprentice to foster her training, and in the past few weeks, you've shown a lack of commitment to that responsibility.
Donwee stopped his pacing and buried his face into his palm.
I will admit that I've been preoccupied, but we cannot risk losing this lead.
And you cannot risk losing her.
Donwee and Elan looked at each other.
Kukuri doesn't think you trust her, Donway. She's trying to hide it, but it's plain to see that she feels like she's not meeting your expectations. Have you no faith in her?
That's not true. Don't say that. Kukuri's progressing very well in her training. Of course I'm proud of her, I can't keep him out of my head, Elan. I try to sleep and all I hear is that laugh. Knowing that he's free out there somewhere. What he did to Sorvin.
Elan sighed and held Donwee's shoulders.
Sorvin is gone, Donway. You could find Balashud tomorrow, and he'd still be gone. Think about what you have. Kukuri needs you. She needs her master. Don't lose another Padawan just to avenge the one you lost.
Donwee's gaze met that of Elan's as he sighed and looked at his research.
I'll go speak to her.
In her room, Kukuri sat, writing in her book. A few minutes later, there was a knock.
Come in.
The door opened with a hiss as Donwee walked in and sat beside her.
I'm turning in all my research and evidence to Republic authorities. I'll let them deal with the search for Balashud for now.
Kukuri looked surprised.
What? Master, you've been so focused on catching them now.
My focus has been misguided lately. Kukuri, I haven't been the most attentive master lately. And for that, I apologize. I have a responsibility to train you. And that's what I must do. Starting tomorrow, we're going to return to our regular training sessions. No more outside work unless absolutely necessary.
Kukuri smiled softly.
I'd like that. Thank you, Master.
Donwee nodded.
Sleep well, Kukuri. Let's start fresh tomorrow.
Donwee departed and left the room as Kukuri felt a wave of relief wash over her. She was ready to continue her training properly and prove herself to her master.